Welcome to the second round of the Rapid Tournament in Switzerland. Now we are playing opponent who is rated around 1900, and the opening choice surprised me a little bit because Alpine variation is a very drawish one on the higher levels, and could intend to be very stable one. 95 d4, c takes, and now here the only line that bothers me as a player is queen takes d4 line. Everything else I know very well. Knight f3, and now I'm already in a very comfortable situation. I will play knight c6, and depends what he continue here. Bishop c4 and c takes d4 are two most popular moves. And now we forgot to press the clock. Maybe you noticed that clock were not running. Both of us look at the same time. Knight takes d4 is not possible because of knight takes c5, obviously. c4 is kind of bad looking move. You know, we can play even knight c7 there, or we can even just go knight b4. So c takes d4 is the main theory. Now d6. We immediately like to undermine this pawn center, especially because this pawn on e5 is very strong. So we wanna exchange some pieces. The e6 line is also possible, but I opt for d6 because I think it's much better. For not just for rapid ability, generally for classical chess, d6 line is just very good. Now bishop c4 is the most popular move. There is also the move knight c3, where you should not take the knight because the knight c3, knight takes, b takes. The problem here is d5 move is very strong for white, and you're already in a big problem. So instead of knight c3, he went bishop c4. I took on e5. And here there is one very annoying line that I faced in classical chess this year, and that's bishop takes d5. The point is to directly go knight c3, and now you have hard time placing your queen. Queen d6 is the only move and not d5. So you need to be aware of the theory here to continue playing this line. So he decided to take back with the pawn on e5, and now bishop e6. This line is very interesting because it's providing this balance in the game. For example, now the move knight g5 here falls apart because of very strong brilliance, and that's the move knight c3. The point is, in the queen trade, rook takes d8, now they can't take your bishop because rook d1 is a checkmate, and if they take the knight on c3, there is bishop takes c4. And now you have bishop here, also castling is stopped. So we got some moves on the board. He castled, I played g6. He played rook e1. I think that move is bad one. Maybe it's better to go queen e2 followed by rook d1. Actually, d1 square is better for the rook. But he played rook e1. Now I played bishop g7, and he played bishop to b5. So I think also he wasted time with his bishop. According to engine, instead of going rook e1 and all of that, the best is knight g5. Now I'll play bishop to g7. He'll take, and here he'll protect the pawn with f4, queen b6 followed by rook d8. It's a very interesting line for both sides and very, very playable. So rook e1, bishop g7, bishop e5, I castled. So at this point, if he played bishop b5, then he should just take the knight, at least ruin the structure. But I got a bishop here. The only problem for me now is that this bishop is closed. So I have to work on somehow to open up this bishop. Maybe some pins would work in the future, but now since the b line get open, maybe I could work for that. Like playing rook b8, queen b6, followed by rook fd8, and we can get nice stability on the queen side, and also trying to use our bishop pair the best way. He played bishop d2, which makes total sense. He would like to get with a knight out, protect the knight, generally outshine our knight here, so I could sense this move very nice. Bishop g5 doesn't make sense. Knight g5 maybe is too late now because I will just play something like bishop f5. So I could understand this move. Now what I'm trying to do is to connect my rooks and get some control on the open files. So that's the reason why I played queen b6, targeting the pawn on b2. And also on the other side, I'm preparing rook d8, rook b8, or even some, tactics along this diagonal could appear, but not for now. He played queen c1, so protecting the pawn. Maybe he didn't want to play b3 because this diagonal becomes soft, and that's the main reason. So queen c1, Queen c1 could work with the idea of bishop h6, but here we just don't touch anything. We don't want to take this bishop because queen will retake and knight g5 could be very uncomfortable attack on the king side. And here we are just looking for the pure counterplay since white doesn't have development. His pieces are behind, and we can use the momentum of putting the pressure on pawn on b2, also maybe on the knight on f3 because there is no more queen on d1. He wants obviously to go knight c3, so that's the reason why I played bishop to g4, targeting the knight on f3. And now knight doesn't have good square, so knight g5 looks like an option maybe to reroute a knight on e4 and later on maybe on c5. That's a nice idea. Where I'm gonna play something like rook a b8. He might play b3, and here I have maybe nice move, queen to d4 and targeting the rook in the corner. Also the pawn on e5 is hanging. Bishop g4, and he surprised me with a decision of bishop e3. So he's attacking my queen, but there is no need to panic, and gave me the bishop on e3. I think this bishop is really important for black, especially because it's the last bishop on board. So later on we're gonna have two bishops versus two knights. And I took here on e3. Now queen takes his logical response, because after queen takes b2 he will play something like knight d2 and he will rely on the compensation of that sacrificed pawn. But he actually took with rook, and he completely missed bishop h6, a pin on the rook, skewer, however you want to call it. And now black is completely winning, where white doesn't have any single compensation for that exchange. Also later on we'll exchange the knight here on f3. Rook b8, rook d8 is coming anyways, putting pressure on open lines, and black is just completely winning. He decided to develop the knight on c3, but it's too late because we take the rook, they take back with pawn. Now we exchange even more pieces, open up the king side, and here is just easy part of converting. You can look to simplify more, but since his king is open, you can look for the checkmate patterns. So queen trade maybe is not too necessary here. And rook a b8, simply attacking the pawn on b2. He played b3. Later on maybe knight a4, knight c5. I played rook from f to d8. So taking control over the open line. At this point, he needs to bring this rook to the game. He started playing with knight, temporary attack on the queen, but this just improves my queen on a better spot. Now I'm ready to attack the pawn or to drop my rook on d2, followed by other rook on d8 here. And white is in a very big problem because he can't find a good way of putting this rook into the game for activity. My king is totally safe, and counterplay simply does not exist here. Pawn on c6 is hanging, I agree on that. But on the other side, I don't really need that pawn. Also, this opens the line, so it will actually help black get faster kingside attack because my rooks will be much faster on the second rank and look forward to give the checks and checkmates to white's king. Also, pawn on e5 is hanging, knight is out of the game, rook is not developed, and black is having very easy play now. He took the pawn on c6. Obviously, that's maybe the only move here. I took the pawn on e5, targeting the rook in the corner. So now if he plays something like queen to c3, I'll just take the queen, knight takes back, and play rook d3, where create a double attack, and also the other rook is ready to join the game on the open line. So after queen e5, the only way to defend the rook and not trade the queens is to go rook e1 here, which he does. And now it's time for checkmate threats. I can start with rook c8 followed by rook c2, but there is direct one, rook to d2, which threatened the pawn on h2, followed by also queen g5 or queen g2. So I play that one. Also, if he defends on the other side, I'm threatening the pawn on a2. The only move to stay in the game is to play f4, blocks the diagonal. And now the winning continuation is queen h5 and queen h2, or queen g4 and queen g2 later. Depends if they move the queen from the c6 spot. Instead, I went for queen to f5, which is also nice because I'm protecting the rook, protecting the square on c8, and my rook can join the game, followed by rook c2. So now here they don't have any great moves. If they go e4, there is queen takes f4 or just queen g4 and queen g2. Instead, he went queen f3 back, relying on defense, trying to be around the king, which makes sense. Queen g3 would defend everything, but on the other side, I'll start collecting the queenside pawn. So, okay, he defends the king side, but then the other part of the board is collapsing, so we can rely on more material. So I played queen c2, threatening the pawn on a2 and threatening the pawn on h2. He has to defend the pawn which is more critical, and that's the h2 pawn. So playing something like queen h3, queen g3 is the only part, which he did. And now I don't need really the pawn on a2, I'm relying on a checkmate, so I played rook bd8, and now I'm ready to step forward with my rook on d1, where I'm going to trade a pair of rooks and put then the other rook on d1, and queen is gone after that, and checkmate is coming because we'll control both ranks at the same time with our major pieces. If our plan does not succeed, then we are going to just collect all of these pawns and rely on the endgame, but pretty much there is no defense for white at this point. He is completely stuck. He tried h4 to expand on the other side, but after rook d1, it's pretty much hopeless. Rook e1 is happening, and rook d1 is following the tactical pattern where we win the queen or we give a checkmate. And he resigned because there is not anything else to do. We are proceeding to the third round with 2 out of 2. If you stayed until the end of the video, comment 20% if you are that part of the crew. And I'll see you in the next one.